The void beyond the shuttle's viewport stretched endlessly. A sea of ink, pierced only by the distant, indifferent glimmer of distant stars. In the silence, save for the low hum of the vessel's life support, the young Psyker trembled. His mind throbbed with 1,000 unbidden voices, whispering of futures too vast and tragic for any mortal to bear. They spoke of fire, of betrayal, of the slow decay of worlds, and the eternal watchfulness of the Emperor, who had chosen him and abandoned him in the same breath. He had been plucked from the ash-choked streets of Vadris IX as a boy, barely 10 years of age, his frail body hiding a mind that hummed with raw potential. At first, the Inquisition had called him a prodigy, a blessed instrument of the Emperor's will. Each day, they fed him knowledge both wondrous and terrible, the immutable laws of the warp, the fractious currents of psychic energy, and the innumerable horrors that lurked in the spaces between stars. He had believed for a time that his life was a vessel of purpose, that every searing pain and fevered vision was a step closer to the glory of the Imperium. But the truth was far crueler than any training could have prepared him for. Within the halls of the Schola Progenium, whispers began to ripple through the shadows. Tutors vanished in the dead of night, devoured by secrets no living being was meant to survive. Rumors of the Emperor's favor were tainted, promises of ascension laced with deceit. The boy learned quickly that power was a chain, that every vision, every surge of warp fire carried the weight of expectation, suspicion, and inevitable sacrifice. Those who had once smiled upon him now regarded him with cold calculation, their eyes flicking with the unspoken knowledge that his brilliance might consume him, or worse, them. By the time he had reached his 16th year, he had seen the true cost of his gift. Entire regiments had been erased from battlefields, their deaths deemed necessary to test his strength, to see if his mind could withstand the unending scream of the warp. The Psyker carried the memories of those lost, a burden that burned in his skull with every pulse of psychic energy. Nights were the worst. The warp would claw at his consciousness, pulling forth visions of cities in ruin, of innocence torn apart by forces beyond comprehension, of the Emperor himself standing indifferent, watching as the universe writhed in agony. It was during one such night that the betrayal came to its final fruition. He had been sent to the hive world of Dravathar, a planet choked by industry, its air thick with soot and despair. The mission had been described in careful, clinical language. Extract a fragment of forbidden lore from a hidden archive, a relic that could tip the balance of war in the Imperium's favor. Yet when he arrived, the archive was empty. The Inquisitor who had ordered his journey appeared not as a savior or guide, but as an executioner cloaked in authority. There was no greeting, no explanation, only the cold accusation that he had been compromised, that his mind had been tainted by the whispers he could not help but hear. The Psyker's protests fell on ears deafened by fear and zealotry. They bound him in chains forged of blessed adamantium, shackles designed to suppress his gift, and carried him to the summit of the hive spire. There, before a crowd of the faithful, they revealed the truth. He was a weapon, a tool, to be wielded and discarded. The Emperor had never intended him for mercy, for glory, or for survival. He had been chosen to burn, a flare of psychic energy destined to ignite and die in the service of a galactic lie. Rage, horror, and despair intertwined within him, a torrent that threatened to consume both his soul and his sanity. And yet, even in that moment of ultimate betrayal, the warp sang to him, offering escape, power, and vengeance. He had been betrayed by the Imperium. But the universe, beyond the stars, held no such treacheries. Its fires promised liberation, its darkness a canvas for wrath and retribution. He embraced the storm within, letting the voices guide him, as the chains that had bound him melted like wax beneath the heat of his fury. The hive spire became a pyre, the faithful scattering like leaves in a gale, their screams a chorus to the song of the warp. By the time the Inquisitor realized the magnitude of the mistake, it was too late. The Psyker, once a boy plucked from the dust, had become something unrecognizable, a nexus of raw psychic power and untempered vengeance. Dravathar burned beneath the night sky, a blackened wound upon the face of the Imperium, and the Psyker's laughter echoed across the void, a promise that the betrayal was only the beginning, not the end. He drifted into the stars, a lone figure with eyes like molten silver, carrying with him the horrors of what had been done to him and the knowledge of what